Home Alone is an article or pamphlet written by E. Michael Jones criticizing Democratic presidential hopeful Pete Buttigieg. It is a masterpiece. And if you've ever wanted to see Jones firing on all cylinders, here is the place. I have read a few of his books, but this one he is consumed by a righteous anger, and dare I say, far more focused than usual. Jones is out for blood, and understandably so, as he knows of Buttigieg personally as his mayor and his neighbor. The 38 pages are loaded with Jones screaming at the top of his voice towards the so-called Mayor Pete, the oligarchs, and sodomy. Here's some prescient quotes. Virtually every public act he has made in office, from playing Gershwin with the South Bend Public Symphony to funding the gay disco lights on the St. Joe River, can be traced back to the pathological narcissism which is the invariable companion to all homosexual activity. But how does this relate to the mayor's homosexuality? His scandal involving new trash trucks which won't fit into the alleys of South Bend. As Nagy pointed out, the alley was designed for this purpose. Anyone who thinks that the anus is a sex organ is going to have a hard time figuring out why alleys were designed for trash removal. So homosexuality does affect the mayor's ability to run South Bend after all. First, because he doesn't understand the concept of design. But secondly, because every project must fit into the mayor's narcissistic fantasy of himself as the smartest guy in Indiana, and soon to be the first gay president of the United States. And we got a third one for you. Since his career as an elected official in Indiana has now come to an end, and since it seems unlikely that he will get elected as our first gay president, some serious rethinking is necessary for the man with the most impressive resume in the state of Indiana. My unasked for suggestion is that Mayor Pete switch parties and apply for the ambassador's post in, say, Uganda, where homosexuality is still a criminal offense. This would probably make him as popular there as it made him amongst the black population of South Bend itself. Perhaps he can then tell Uganda, home of the shrine for the Ugandan martyrs, all of whom chose death over sodomy, that they too should ratify Michel Foucault's pact with the devil. How do you say, at least we're sexy, in Swahili? I, for one, would be willing to make a significant contribution towards buying him a one-way plane ticket. Not out of malice, of course, but for his education, if not his conversion, and raising of his consciousness to the point where he understands that the first victim of the regime of sexual liberation, as political control, which he has perpetrated upon South Bend, was the man he sees in the mirror. Jones spits hot fire like this the entire book, using some of his most iconic catchphrases to good effect, such as America, the gay disco, and pathological narcissism of homosexuals, to a dizzying degree, making it an enjoyable, hilarious, and highly quotable read. Mayor Pete is no doubt one of the most narcissistic and dangerous of the 24 or so 2020 Democratic contenders. Now that he's officially come out as a contender for the crown, the oligarchs and culture distorters fawn over him at full blast. Jones describes him as someone who pretends to dress up as a populist in his rhetoric, but has nothing but disdain for the people whom he represents. Buttigieg's father was a scholar of both Antonio Gramsci and Michel Foucault, and there is no doubt that his prime political influences are those two men. As such, Mayor Pete is defined by his endless lies, misdirection, and half-truths. His entire life has been a narcissistic quest for building a perfect resume to appeal to the oligarchs, whom he hopes will allow him to achieve power. He covered up his homosexuality to the general public in his first run for mayorship, while making it known to the gays themselves. Then, as soon as he was elected, he abandoned that office to serve in Afghanistan, to have veteran as a bullet point under his resume. He made enemies with the black community by firing their police chief and replacing them with some Tajiki mercenary. He then spent $700,000 to put gay disco lights underneath a bridge for the sleeping homeless people to enjoy. He refused to address overflowing sewage, destroying numerous people's houses. Furthermore, he destroyed the crowded infrastructure of the city to make way for some needless and unused bike lanes, which of course caused massive traffic jams. He then fired numerous garbage men to replace them with an automated dump trucks, which don't even fit in the alleyways, which were of course built for traditional dump trucks. He did all this, which did nothing but propel the city into needless debt, only to put more bullet points underneath his resume. After reading this book, I can wholeheartedly suggest it from the bottom of my heart. But I tremble at the thought of Mayor Pete someday becoming President Pete, or, more likely, cabinet member to whoever beats Trump in 2020. Okay, so we have Home Alone, the paperback version. I always want to get the paperback version of Jones's books. I really dislike reading anything on Kindle. And under Argent's words, like, I'm a wage hermit, and I just buy all kinds of books. And I probably read 1 out of the 5 books I order. Which is, you know, whatever. I guess there could be worse things to be. At least I'm being a wage hermit by reading, and not being a wage hermit by buying, like, stupid, like, Marvel action figures or something retarded like that. And so it usually has Jones's usual formatting. It's a pretty thin book, you know, because it's only 38 pages. Something that's kind of a problem is that he tends to make... At the beginning, he made so that quotes were in gray, and this book has a lot of quotes from Butt Gig's Shortest Way Home, One Mayor's Challenge, and The Model for America's Future. Because this is basically a counter-biography to Butt Gig's own biography. And at the beginning, it has this gray text right here. But as the book goes on, the gray text just kind of takes over the black text, which is supposed to be Jones's own narrative outside the quotes. It's not that it gets confusing, it's just an accident there. You can very easily tell because of the way that Jones formats the quotes, which is which. I assume that Jones will be able to fix that. But anyway, definitely a good read. Very fast, very easy to get. I mean, it's only $7 or so for the paperback version. It's like $2 for the Kindle version. I highly recommend this one. Go and read it. This is Jones at his best.